order here?
No.
No, not yet.
But
Okay.
you can just say hi to everybody.
I will say hi. And at least we'll get something rolling here.
Doesn't
I'm
Brent
Brian
by
Bozeman.
himself meet a quorum?
What's that?
If doesn't Brent by himself meet a quorum?
He counts for 2, I think, last time I checked. Should I turn your volume up here? Does that work? Can I do that?
Whatever you want to do.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Business Services Committee. I am Brian Bozeman, the new chair somehow, maybe short straw drawer, I'm not sure. But happy to be a part and happy to serve and happy to learn. Tara and I met a couple of weeks ago, and it was apparent all of the things that I still need to learn and figure out from all of you and the different organizations that are serving our great communities. And I guess that's one thing I'd like to get out of this is just understanding all of the organizations that are doing work in Northern Kentucky and how we can better collaborate together. And then also just a better understanding for our businesses, how they can take advantage of the great resources that the WIB offers. I think that was very enlightening to me. Unfortunately, I joined this board during COVID and everything was virtual since. So haven't had a chance to meet too many of you, but certainly looking forward to taking our masks down and getting in a room together here soon. So, so anyway, I think we may be good now. Are we good now? Tara, do we want to do a roll call?
We are about to have Mike Flannery join us.
Okay.
With Amazon.
Okay.
And then as soon as he does, we will be good.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
So we can't approve the minutes quite yet.
Correct.
But if you want, we can have our
Do you want to have?
Oh, there's Lisa. So we should be good now.
Okay.
So if you want to do minutes.
All right.
Minutes were sent out this afternoon, and then you have them in your packet.
In the packet. Yep.
From June.
All right. So I know everybody should have received the minutes in an email from Tara earlier this afternoon, just during the lunch hour, I think. So I don't know if anybody's had much of a chance to review, but I'd like to make a request to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Gina.
I'll second.
Brent, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I think I did that right. We're approved. The minutes are approved.
Yeah. We did forget one thing, but it's fine for the minutes.
Okay.
We can go back to number 4.
Yeah, self-identify. Does anyone?
I wish I thought that.
No, that's okay. I thought he was going to just make a guest appearance and do that. I'm teasing. No. At this time, does anyone need to self-identify for any conflicts of interest for today?
This border with overall general situation, the state of things.
Just with this meeting.
Just this meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, well then, no.
Yeah. All right, great. Okay. With that, I think we can maybe get close to back on track here. I think we switched things around a little bit. We're going to have Eric, if you're okay, give an update on the WIOA Business Services.
Yeah, if you want to do that from right here, and I'm going to see if anybody needs to be let in, maybe. I'm going to play around with this for a minute.
Well, thank you everyone again for having me today. I just wanted to get, can everyone hear me okay? No, someone's kind of shaking their head a little bit.
Here, you need that.
Check 1, 2. Can you hear me better?
He's a little muted.
He's a little muted, it says. Why don't you take off your mask? Sit on, take off your
Something
mask.
about standing and COVID spreading. I'm not sure.
Okay, hopefully this is a little better. Okay, good. So wanted to give a direct service provider update. Number one, the business services have undergone a little bit of new staffing changes. If you can move on to the next slide. We have Kim Sprader, who is now our regional workforce strategies coordinator. So Kim has been with us since 2019. She started as a talent development services specialist for our rural county. She was stationed out in our Williamstown location. So of course has had experience working with our customers, seeing what their needs are, particularly in the rural counties, which is a little bit of a different story than our urban core. And then of course she moved to our business services program earlier this year, a few months ago. So Kim is actually on the call today virtually. So yeah, if everyone can help me in congratulating and welcoming Kim to starting her new role. Awesome. And then you can advance the slide, please. So we had our Kentucky Career Center Williamstown open house and employer showcase yesterday, and it was a great event. The weather held out where it didn't rain on everybody. We had quite a few employers show up, and it was an outdoor event, so COVID friendly. And we had some great community partners and stakeholders with us, including Rick Skinner, the Williamstown mayor, as well as Colton Simpson, the deputy judge executive, and of course Janie Baker from the Grant County Chamber, with several job seekers in attendance. Kind of like our last event in June. We would have liked a better job seeker turnout. I think with the community partners and all of the job seekers, we had a little over 30. But we always want to see that number increase. And I'll talk a little bit about some of our plans for job fairs moving forward, but just wanted to tell the board, that does continue to be a challenge during this pandemic time. You can advance the slide. We have a few job fairs upcoming, but they're going to look a little different. So we are working with EC Learn, Sandy Woodall, August 26th, we're doing a child care job fair. So just looking at our child care providers, they're all looking for CEAs, and the child care arena has been hit hard with the pandemic, but we're helping Sandy and our child care partners in this region by doing a job fair at our Florence location. So that's slated for August 26th. And then our next biggest event is this Local 12 job fair, September 28th. So this is going to be at our Kentucky Career Center Covington location. And what we plan on doing is having several workshops available that day, along with the actual job fair at our parking lot. So they'll be around the perimeter at our parking lot. We're looking for about 20 or so employers for this event. But the really cool thing about this event is there's going to be media advertising. We're partnering with Local 12. So to have a really good media partner like Local 12, they're going to blast out for us on their social media. We're going to have commercials, Star 64 and in the afternoons to cater to that population that we're trying to target, the job seekers that are looking for work, during the daytime. So this is going to be most likely our last big event for this calendar year. A few other job fairs we've had in the works. A CVG job fair, so we plan on doing one with CVG with our CVG employers. So that's to be determined. It was going to be in this fall season, but that's probably going to be pushed back to springtime as we keep an eye on the Delta variant. And same with the Carroll County job fair. We wanted to do a bigger event down there to serve our Carrollton folks. So we partnered a few years ago with Goodwill and Legal Aid of the Bluegrass to do like a half job fair, half expungement resource fair. So we were thinking about doing something similar, but then again, the Delta variant kind of came at that planning time. So we plan on doing that in the near future. So those are some exciting job fairs that are coming up. And advance the slide, please. And just to keep the board in mind of our in-demand career days. So this is a strategy we have with how we're doing hiring events. So the first and third weeks of the month at our career center locations, we're inviting employers to do hiring events. So just like throughout the years, we've been doing single employer hiring events. This is what this looks like. So this is just an example flyer. You know, we have the employers listed there, but we just recently added the types of positions and the wages, so our customers can see what employers they're visiting. So sometimes we have multiple employers for that day. We try to keep it within those sectors, each in-demand sector per day. And what we want to do in September with the September 6th unemployment benefits leaving, we're working towards having employers every single day. So an employer every day in September at our location, so we can continue to push job seekers to employment opportunities. So far this fiscal year, we've served over 200 employers with setting up for hiring events, helping them post jobs on Focus, strategizing with them. So our business service team continues to work really hard with that. Next slide, please. And I think this is my last slide here. Just looking ahead, as I just mentioned, you know, our UI benefits ending September 6th. So, you know, state staff and our staff, we want to partner together and make sure we really get these customers to employment opportunities. We want to look at more smaller scale events, you know, as I just mentioned with the past two big events. We've had a kind of a lower job seeker number than what we anticipated, but with these smaller events like in-demand career days, you know, like or the childcare job fair, which is only going to have a few childcare employers. We're hoping to kind of look at that and see what we do with that, and then continuously quality improve from those events. Our business service team is continuing to look at data tools. You know, we look at the key performance indicators just like this board does to kind of determine where we're going and if we need to pivot on certain outreach to different sector groups, we want to do that. Then there's also, you know, our Dun and Bradstreet report. So those companies we get from that report that might be in financial volatility. We want to outreach to those employer customers as well. So as we're building back our business service team, Kim is, you know, now take lead in coordinating. We want to continue to look at these data tools to better inform us of how we can pivot and move forward. We want to continue to offer employer trainings, you know, on utilizing our focused talent job portal. And there's several other trainings we can include. Our innovation center is now open for business, so we can house these trainings for employers. So we want to continue to look towards those opportunities. And then, as I kind of mentioned with challenges, you know, we're looking at just continuing to find ways to outreach to our customers for them to visit our Florence location, Covington, CBG, Carrollton, Williamstown, and our library access points. We want to, you know, outreach to our folks that aren't only seeking unemployment, but we want to continue to tell the community we're here, we're open, we're available for employment opportunities, for training opportunities. And during the pandemic, that's been a challenge, you know, not only with the UI benefits, but a new normal for families like childcare and folks retiring early because of the pandemic. So we continue to see those barriers from our customers. So those are the things I had to share today. If anyone has any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Eric? Great report.
Hey, this is Lisa with North American Stainless, and I do want to let you know that the Chamber of Commerce would be interested in partnering to have a job fair here. We had one not too long ago. It was quite a big success with employers. We had a few employees or job seekers, but we are interested, and I believe that the school would be interested in partnering again too, because they were partnering with us for that job fair. So
okay, that's great, Lisa. I can get with our Carrollton folks, and yeah, we can get in touch with you.
Would you mind reaching out to me directly?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, and we can talk more about that.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Anything else for Eric? All right. Corey, would you like to take the hot seat? Couldn't quite figure out how to organize the room today, but here we are.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I think my voice tends to be kind of loud, so I can probably manage with my mask on as long as everybody can hear me okay. I just have one slide. I wanted to give a Grow Pillar 3 update, and I know Amanda Johanneman is on with us today too, so she'll be digging into Grow a little bit later on, but I wanted to highlight a few things that we're doing around the Pillar 3 table, starting with our SWAT meetings. And for those of you who may be less familiar, SWATs are Strategic Workforce Action Team meetings, and this is where multiple workforce partners get together with an employer all at the same time to really effectively put that employer at the center of the conversation to comprehensively be able to meet that employer's needs. So, you know, organizations such as the Chamber, Gateway, Triad, Life Learning Center, the Kent County Public Library, many of you who are on this call are represented around that group. So as always, I appreciate that partnership. Those have been continuing to go strong. We've had actually 4 SWAT meetings since the last BSC meeting. And so that's a pretty good pace. We've met with AgriPower, Taylor Farms, which is previously Castellini's Club Chef. Thank you. I was blanking on the name. I could remember Castellini, not Club Chef. Most people know Taylor Farms is Club Chef still. Newlywed Foods and Meyer Tool. So all good SWAT meetings, and follow-up is key. So that's something that we're really honing in on too, to make sure that we're capturing that follow-up with these different companies and which workforce partners are doing what after the SWAT, which is probably the most important part. And then I wanted to also make you all aware that we were sort of highlighted in the state of Kentucky. We were invited, thank you to Christy Godman and Gateway, we were invited to present to the Future Work Group on July 27th. This is a group made up of several cabinets, the Kentucky Chamber, KCTCS, KY Stats, and some other state organizations. And Lisa Mulcahy, Alashir Barikanoff, Christy Godman, and myself presented to this group. And what they ultimately want to do is replicate what we're doing in Northern Kentucky in other regions of the state. So I think that's a nice feather in our cap. So I wanted to make sure the BSC is aware that happened. And the other thing too is we're moving on to preparing the workforce. We've been working as part of GROW and leading Pillar 3 for over 3 years now. And we're in the process now of reevaluating our ultimate goal and our objectives. We know that we want to continue to, you know, certainly play in the space of adult career readiness and lifelong learning. That's never going to change, but how do we go about that? So we're really taking a hard look at our primary objective of increasing the labor participation rate to reconsider, to see if that still needs to be our North Star, or is there any other metric that's more practical and reasonable for us to keep our eye on. And also with that, we're reevaluating our objectives that lead up to that. So those conversations are happening currently. In fact, we just met this morning earlier and had a good conversation about that. But I just wanted to let this group know that we are likely going to be tweaking some of those objectives that are a part of Pillar 3. So that's really all I had. So do you have any questions for me?
Is this where the chair can ask like a dumb question?
You can ask whatever you want.
Okay.
There are no.
So
dumb
can
questions.
you, so as and I don't know, maybe everybody on here knows the answer to this question, but what is pillar 3? Is that something you can summarize real quick? Because I think we're a little ahead of schedule here.
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
That was a great question. So as part of Grow Northern Kentucky, there are 5 pillars of work.
Okay.
And every pillar is working together to ultimately better prepare the workforce for our
Okay.
employers.
Okay.
And so pillar 1 focuses on early childhood.
Okay.
Pillar 2 is K through 12 strategies.
Okay.
Pillar 3 is that area after high school graduation. It's called adult career readiness and
Okay.
lifelong learning. So we're really focused on helping more adults get post-secondary training
Okay.
and helping employers access the services that are available to them,
Okay.
much like what we're doing with SWATs.
Okay.
And pillar 4 is talent attraction and retention to try to bring more talent to the region. Pillar 5 is employer best practices and policies. So
Okay.
really working with employers on job quality measures, anything they can do to have more success with retention and.
Awesome. Okay. And so Brighton Center is responsible for pillar 3 under Grow.
Well, ultimately, the Northern Kentucky Workforce Investment Board is.
Okay.
And I'm sort of representing through the Career Center, representing the WIB on that pillar.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Do you want to mention, just because we do have a couple minutes, of the other partners that are a part of that? Did you?
Sure, yeah.
Just maybe let everybody know, because there's some of them probably on this.
Yeah. I wish I had a slide to look at. There's so many. I'm trying to remember.
I can help. So
Okay,
Gateway.
great.
So Gateway's one.
Gateway is one. I should just look at the screen
yeah.
and
Yeah.
see all the faces. Natalie is a part of that pillar. I see Natalie on there. Triad is part of it. The Chamber is part of it. Several post-secondary institutions, NKU, Thomas More. Sean Cox is representing Ion Apex as the employer partner that's part of that committee. Let me
Vicky
think.
Burling.
Yeah, Vicky Burling.
Vicky
WIB
with the
member.
Ensweiler Institute. Is that Amanda who chimed in there?
Thanks, Amanda.
I was just trying to help you out. You had the slide
Sorry.
already this morning.
We
Lori.
just looked at this roster just a few hours ago. But yeah, it's a pretty nice, the partners are nicely represented, although that is something that we're currently looking at as well, is are the right people around the table?
Yeah.
Do we need to really think about adding anyone that's missing?
So just thank you. I don't know who that was that shared the screen, but thank you. So those were the 5 pillars, and then there's a steering committee. So just to like orient everybody, your WIB chair, who's now Michelle Sesteric, recently transitioned from Dana Dobbs. She is the voting representative of the WIB on the Grow steering committee. And I am on the steering committee too as a non-voting member.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Kind of looking at like all 5 and.
Yes.
direction. And so one
Awesome.
of the pieces of direction from the steering committee has been, maybe it's time to look at some of these metrics
Mhm.
and think through, are these still the right metrics that they were
Right.
2 years ago, 3 years ago? Because obviously there's a lot of things that changed recently. And so one of those being labor force participation rate, which was kind of set aside as this like key indicator for adults. And while it's really important, it's kind of, to Corey's point, maybe not the whole story. And so how do we think a little bit more broadly?
Mhm.
So.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all. I'll get out of the hot.
Thanks, Rory.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Corey.
All right.
Okay,
So, Miss Tara, I believe you were,
it's my turn.
You
I'll go
were
over
up.
here. Yeah. Okay. One second. I know you're not gonna be able to see and understand me with my mask on, so here I am. Okay. I have a number of updates. It's nice to see everybody on the screen. Thank you guys for joining. I have a couple things that are maybe not in my A through D list. So I want to start with a reminder. If you looked at your packet, or if you were here and you had the printed packet, if you look at the second page, we've now updated all of our agenda pages where the back has your new strategic plan on it. So just so everybody can remember that, you know, you guys created this great new strategic plan. It's very straightforward. It's not too long. And so, you know, it's going to be important that we refer back to this and kind of use this as our guide. So I'm not going to go over the entire thing right now, but as we talk about a few of these items, I did just want to mention that the strategic plan elements, number one is employer services, engaging employers in the design of services that support talent recruitment, incentivize workforce participation, and remove employment barriers. And so a lot of what I'm going to mention is kind of along those lines. And so just a reminder that if you ever want to refer back to that, it's now part of your agenda. Okay, so an exciting new program that you've maybe heard about in part, actually two programs, are Commonwealth Coders and Code Kentucky. And part of this update involves an introduction, which I'm super excited about. So I'm going to start with Commonwealth Coders. This was an opportunity that came to us as a result of our National Dislocated Worker Grant. The National Dislocated Worker Grant was kind of a COVID-related grant designed to move individuals who had been dislocated workers, right? So laid off, get them back into the workforce. The primary piece of that has been what we call Career Link. We can create with our nonprofit partners subsidized positions that an individual can work at a nonprofit, and we pay the full cost of their salary, their fringe, and any expenses, like if they needed a special, I don't know, they needed boots, or they needed, you know, a hard hat, or whatever they might need at that organization for that particular role. We were able to pay for that with a maximum per person spending of $20,000 per person. We are still underway with that program. We really need some more individuals to take part. As you guys know, when this came about in, say, like May of 2020, no one knew what was going to happen with the economy, right? There were so many layoffs. Well, now we're in a very different position sort of as a community where there's a lot of available jobs. So we're in the midst of really doing some outreach to individuals who have been long-term unemployed, who are still in unemployment, to really hopefully encourage them back into the labor force with this program. But as we know, there are many jobs out there for someone who's looking. So it's kind of a matter of finding those individuals who, for whatever reason, haven't been able to connect. So part of that was 2 other WIBs. There's 10 WIBs in Kentucky, 2 WIBs, South Central, which is the Bowling Green area, and then the Cumberland, so just directly east from Bowling Green. They created a training program through their National Dislocated Worker Grant, and it's called Commonwealth Coders, where they are training individuals on how to code, how to do app development, web development. They really needed to get to a little bit of a different scale to make that work for some of the training costs. And so they invited us to come into the program at no cost to the Northern Kentucky WIB, except for to be able to use some of those dislocated worker grant dollars to pay for training. So no staffing cost. It was like a no-brainer, really. When we definitely wanted to participate in that. It is a boot camp style program. We had 10 openings. We were able to fill 9 of those. We were able to get an additional small statewide reserve grant to buy loaner MacBook Pro laptops that we're loaning to the participants, and they're able to use those during the duration of the program, which is 16 weeks. So it's full-time, Monday through Friday, from 9 o'clock to 4:30. They're learning to code every single day of the week for 16 weeks, except for like Thanksgiving. And we'll be able to hopefully connect them into jobs. We've already had employers contacting us saying, let us know when you have graduates. Now, through that experience, we learned some things. First, we learned, obviously, not everyone can just drop what they're doing and spend 4 months in class, not able to work. And so we did have a very cool partnership that was developed with United Way of Greater Cincinnati. And I know you guys might have heard part of this, but I'm just going to remind everybody because we have some new people on the call. United Way of Greater Cincinnati agreed with us that they thought that this was potentially a life-changing opportunity for some people, but not everybody could take part. It's a little bit of an equity issue. You know, we don't want to create a program that's really only available for people who can afford it. We really want people who maybe couldn't afford it to be able to hopefully take part as well. So they agreed to grant us $26,500, and we were able to create stipends, like cost of living stipends, for any of the participants who were under 200% of the federal poverty line. And so therefore being able to say, look, you can use this on your rent, you can use this to buy groceries, you can use it for whatever you need. But when we got the grant, it was Commonwealth Coders was only going to be 12 weeks, and then it extended to 16. So we were a little nervous, like, oh, okay, how's this going to pivot? We ended up having 7 of our 9 Commonwealth Coders participants who qualified for the stipend. And so we were able to go to United Way and say, hey, how about we only grant this to the 7 and then we just extend it for the 16 weeks. So those individuals, 7 individuals, are all going to get the equivalent of $236 a week for 16 weeks. And we're hoping that that's going to give more money for, you know, more incentive for retention and keeping them in the program, allowing them to focus on success. And then the agreement with United Way is that we report on those outcomes. We've got one individual in the program who is being shadowed by a United Way marketing team member. And so Maurice is going to be kind of sharing his story and his, you know, experience throughout the program, which is pretty cool. So we're excited about to see what happens. But the thing that we also learned is, again, even with the stipend, there was a lot of demand for the training, but not necessarily everybody who could still just sort of make this all work. So we were so excited when I was contacted by Michael Britton, who's my counterpart in Louisville. He's the director of Kentuckiana Works. And he said, listen, we've got some interest in taking Code Louisville statewide. Would you be a pilot location? And so, you know, look, we've run the numbers. There's a 17.8% projection of growth in the area of app and web development over the next decade. We feel like this is an area where it's okay to have a little bit of additional, you know, training and focus. And so we said, yes, come on in. We'll happily partner with you. So Code Kentucky has launched. The classes will start in September. I believe it's September 1st, if I'm not mistaken. And we have our 2 team members on board. They are actually technically employees of Code Louisville. The first hire is with us today, Monica Remy. Monica, I see you in the corner of our screen. If you want to wave at everybody, say hi.
Hello.
Hello, we're so happy to have her with us. She started on Monday, so we're still getting her integrated into everything. But as employers on this call, we want you to meet with Monica, please. When she emails you, please respond. The idea is to tie her into the business services team that meets on a bi-weekly basis, to have her reporting to this committee moving forward, and to really make sure, I mean, this is an opportunity for us, even though she's going to mostly be focused obviously on Code Kentucky and Appen, you know, tech side of things. This is a really great opportunity for us to be able to leverage all the other things that we're doing. So when she's meeting with employers, we want her to know about all the other stuff going on. So Monica, again, and then we do have another hire.
I didn't know that Adecco was a franchising.
Official, he should be starting in the next couple of weeks. So that will round out the team. That person will be doing student recruitment, but actually they had to close. They had so many, over 400 individuals who expressed initial interest in Code Kentucky. So they're now starting, going to open for the January session in a few weeks. Are you a co-host? Okay. If anybody could just mute if you're not talking, that'd be great. So anyway, very excited to continue to offer you guys updates about both Commonwealth Coders and Code Kentucky. We feel like they're very complementary to one another. Any questions about those?
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's cool too. Okay, so this is a quicker update, but those of you that have been on the committee for a little while, or the board, may remember back in January, former committee chair Dave Fleischer kind of led the charge with a review of the Kentucky Department of Education has this list of industry certifications, and those are part of, like, if you're in high school and you're a high school junior or senior and you go through this career and technical education pathway, at the end, there has to be some kind of like culminating, way to show this competency that you have earned. And so often they do that with the student earning an industry approved credential. And so we have a responsibility, the WIB does through state statute, to look at that list of industry approved credentials and to provide input to the NKWIB, the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board, and the Kentucky Department of Education, say, yes, these industry credentials make sense, or maybe no, they don't, they need to be updated, maybe changes made in some way. So you guys did an awesome job doing that in sort of January through like March-ish. That was part of the giant vote of our comprehensive plan that went through, and I think it culminated in April. I continue to serve on a statewide committee looking at that process. A lot of other WIBs are not spending the time that we did to think about these topics. And just to be honest, I mean, I just got off a meeting with Dr. Terry Van Handorf and Christy Godman earlier today. This is a complicated topic. If Dr. O'Hara, who's a board member, he's on the PY committee, were here, he would tell you from the education standpoint, they want to get this right for you all as employers. They want to be teaching their students things that are relevant. They want their students to be able to take these certificates to an employer and say, hey, I did this, and have the employer be like, oh, great, you get some kind of additional recognition because you achieve this thing, or take it to, their next step in their training or education and have it like be meaningful in some way. And at the moment, it kind of depends. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's kind of not. Sometimes these credentials are super expensive, and so it's just kind of cost prohibitive. Sometimes they're great pathways and great credentials, and the school can't find anybody to hire that they can afford to pay to teach these things, at a school salary. So there's all kinds of dynamics to this list. I think what we learned from going through this process earlier this year is that it's worth looking at, it's worth taking the time to figure out, but it's super complicated. And so I just want to let you guys know that I'm going to continue to bring information back as we continue to refine the process. But I am excited that there's a new director of the NKWIB, Stephanie Evans Kingsley. She started a couple weeks ago, and she's very interested in what the Northern Kentucky Workforce Investment Board has already done around this space. She's coming in September to Northern Kentucky with some of her team to talk with us in more detail about what we've learned, the good, the bad, everything in between, and how can we try to scale up some of these efforts and really put some better practices in place for the whole Commonwealth. So your efforts have really paid off in that way, and I just wanted you all to know that. And then looking forward, I think what would make a lot of sense is, rather than having some huge effort like every 2 or 3 years where we all have to relearn what we've talked about, how do we just make this a part of what we do, so it's not this huge heavy lift, it's more of just a part of our vocabulary and we just keep at it. And so that's what Terry and Christy and I were talking about today, is how do we help employers, find consensus around things that, otherwise maybe it's a little challenging for you guys to do that. So stay tuned on more. Does anybody have any questions about all of that?
Yeah, Tara, not necessarily a question, just an observation that the work that this is going to encompass is not just the alignments in the sense of, what are the competencies we're really looking for in Northern Kentucky? What are the industries or the industry sectors that we're looking to link up and become the theme of Northern Kentucky business and industry? But the nut that needs to still be cracked, and again, groups like GROW, and working with the WIB and with the other partners in the region, is to get a sense of this talent deficit that we have in teaching. and then the deficit of, cost. That, there's no way that public institutions can compete with the skill set that's needed when privates are willing to pay double for that skill set. And so developing some sort of comprehensive plan for how do we create and ensure that that talent is available to the high schools and to, places like Gateway, that we can then count on the fact that there will be individuals with expertise teaching the skills that we want and the competencies we need in Northern Kentucky.
Yeah,
Dr. Gateway.
yeah, some kind of, definitely. We talked about that a little bit too today. So yes, absolutely. There's a lot that needs to be figured out in that regard. Any other thoughts on that? I'm going to skip down to OJT because I know that Angie's on the call from Triad. Angie, thank you for joining us. And I know that she's got to pop off here in just a few minutes. So if you guys recall, when we passed our new budget in the spring, it took effect July 1st, and it included money for the first time in many years for on-the-job training programs and incumbent worker training programs. It's actually first time ever for incumbent worker training, which is available through the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, or WIOA. Those are the funds that you guys manage. Okay, Amanda, you have to jump off too. Okay. I'll try to be quick. I don't know if we're going to get that done, but we'll do our best. So as far as OJT goes, we're now in the process of updating all the internal policies around how an employer would actually apply for these dollars that would allow them to be reimbursed for 50% of the wages of a person that they would be hiring. So we'll say Brian has somebody they want to hire, but they know they're going to need a lot of training to get them up to speed. Maybe it's somebody with no experience. And you're like, look, I'm willing to take a chance on this person, but I'm going to need some help really getting this person up to speed. So the WIB could say, look, that makes sense. So we're able to pay for 50% of that person's wages for 3 months while you're really getting them onboarded. Okay, great. So then we would sign a contract and you would work toward getting that done. And maybe we'll say, hey, we're going to try to do that with 5 people or something of that sort. Well, as these policies have actually not been updated since 2015. So there's a lot of things that need to be updated, including just the word like WIOA wasn't there. So just to give you guys an idea of how old these things are, because for whatever reason, we just haven't done them in the past. Well, we're not going to be able to go through all of it today, but the premise is we have some standards that we're going to want these jobs to meet. If we're going to be investing, right, we want to show that this job, once this person is through the training, is going to be a job that is of like a quality job, right? That they're actually going to be earning, a wage that they're going to be able to support themselves and their family potentially through this work. Well, again, it's been a long, long time since anyone's looked at any of these policies. We haven't been engaged in any on-the-job training contracts for many, many years. The wage that's currently listed in the policy document is $10 an hour. And that just seems extremely low to me. So yeah, Dr. Figueroa, I see your face. So yeah, so $10 an hour, I mean, just to give you guys some perspective, last year you approved the youth work experience salaries to allow our youth work experience participants to be able to be paid. And it had been set at $13.50 and it was increased by this board to up to $16 an hour, sort of depending on the needs of the employer. Because even though the individual is actually getting paid through WIOA dollars and actually Brighton Center is the participant or the employer of record, we want those pay to be sort of commensurate with someone in that same position will be making. So having $10 an hour just seems really off with the direction that we went with the youth work experience. We can use a number of different benchmarks in order to make a decision about what this amount should be. We could use, average wages for the industry. We could use average wages just for the region. But I'm very interested before we embark in that process to really get some feedback from this group about your thoughts on how we go about picking a wage that's going to, we want to support our employers who need help, paying for training and upskilling their employees. So we don't want it so high that it's really like cost prohibitive for those employers. But at the same time, we do want a wage that's enough where if we're investing our funds, we're doing it in a way that's really leading to those life-changing results that we talked about in the strategic and called for in the strategic plan. So I'm sorry, I don't really have a recommendation, but I was interested, I was working on it this week and I wanted to make sure to get your feedback. And I wanted somebody from Triad on the call to kind of see how those incentives might, play into what's going on with local employers. So not to put anybody on the spot, but just wanted to see what you all thought. No specifics. In Tenco, which is our sister region to the east, so Tenco encompasses Maysville, they are at $12 an hour.
Okay.
Just to kind of give that as an example. They use the $12 an hour though, like both ways. So like that's a wage that they pay for subsidized employment, but then that's also like a minimum for what they would allow like an employer to pay
someone.
Yeah. So
And,
they
and the
consider
worker, the classification of the worker, this is dislocated worker, or this is any
this could
number
be
of
for
anyone.
OJT, this could really be anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tara, I was having technical difficulties and getting big enough where I could unmute myself. I'm Angie Mulberry with Triad. One of the things, and I don't know what the right number is, but I can say that, more than ever, there are incentives available at the state level through the BSSC, Bluegrass State Skills, and more than ever, employers are asking about those types of programs. So I do think they're, employers are going to be interested and want to access these funds. As far as the wages are concerned, just a first thought to bounce off everybody is that if you're trying to, thinking of the employee side of it, where I think you're trying to support the employers, but you're also trying to support the employee getting an upskill, something that offers them the ability to earn more money. And so when you look at those dollars, they may be paid less. So if you put a limit on it that's too high, it might rule out some employees that you're wanting to have the opportunity to get an upskill and earn even a better wage at their job because now they've got the skill. So just something initial that when you think about that, I don't know what others think, but that's just kind of my first thought when you're looking at that dollar amount. And I'd have to ask some questions because I don't know what I was looking on the fact sheet around the state's program, and I don't know what the minimum requirement is for the state incentive for that training piece. That might be something that
yeah, for Bluegrass State Skills, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, all the WIBs can just set their own amounts.
So not that answers your question, but just some food for thought when you're, are you going to eliminate some employees that you really desperately want to give the opportunity to get that upskill training and maybe earn a better wage once they have that within their company or become promotable?
Yeah.
I was just going to chime in for my part. I've been kind of setting 15 an hour as kind of like the standard from what we're seeing from a number of employers. I know so many small businesses, so many folks that are paying less than that. But if you look at all the new things coming in, generally 15 is sort of been the bottom of the new things coming in. So, I mean, that I have no scientific basis to back that up, just conversations that we've had with folks. I'll let the rest of the committee chime in, but for us, I know we've kind of set 15 as kind of the bottom at this point.
Okay, that's helpful. Anybody else? I totally agree with Angie. I mean, this is why I brought this to this group, is because, some businesses might have a situation where, look, if you're in this entry level where you're learning, you're gonna earn maybe say $12 or $13 an hour, but as soon as you achieve that, maybe it then goes higher. So I certainly don't want to completely exclude an employer who could actually really use the assistance and maybe has a good pathway for their people, but at the same time, we don't want it so low. Or we're really, I mean, we're doing workforce development. We're really starting, we're trying to think about those transferable, skills. So, if someone's learning something where they would be able to move on, but the idea is that we're supposed to be creating a situation where they would stay with that employer.
Right. Needs to be attractive enough.
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
it's Natalie. I would just be curious when anybody else that's a nonprofit that's on the call thinks about the $15 an hour.
Yeah, I will say, and that's a very good question, Natalie. I will say that in order to qualify to receive on-the-job training funds, the employer typically has to be in one of our 5 target industry sectors. So,
That makes sense then.
yeah, it's a good question. Well, I know that we have, let's see, she left us yet? There's Amanda. I'm gonna let you guys marinate on this for just a second. And we're gonna, if that's okay with our chair, we're gonna do a quick grow update.
Yeah.
Because Amanda only has a couple more minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'll finish my update.
Man, you got 6 minutes thinking before you have to jump.
I will not talk for 6 minutes.
All right. Let's skip to you then. Go for it.
Yeah. So, thank you for having me here. And I'm really kind of jumping in for Lisa, who I know was unable to be here today. So a lot has already been kind of covered and discussed in terms of growing KY, but, just as a kind of quick update or reminder, since the question was asked, Growing KY is a strategic workforce collective. At this time, we have over 75 partners who serve as subject matter experts across those 5 focus areas that were mentioned earlier by Corey. He did an awesome job. And the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce is the backbone organization that's leading the strategic workforce collective for Northern Kentucky. So myself and Lisa Mulcahy, as well as others on our chamber staff, of course, that are involved, work to make sure that we are convening partners, aligning resources, using data to inform decisions, and really measuring progress towards regional workforce outcomes. Tara mentioned that we are doing work around the Growing KY Metrics Subcommittee. I believe that was an update at the last meeting by Lisa, and certainly more to come on that. But we are excited to have Patricia Mahaber working on that with us. And those results, like I said, will be coming soon due to the work that she's doing across the 5 pillars. One thing that Lisa did want me to update everyone on is we have added 2 new individuals to the Growing KY Steering Committee. So there are many individuals on there that are also involved with the Northern Kentucky WIB. But here at our last meeting, it was voted that Jamie Parsons with St. Elizabeth Healthcare will be coming in as the new Growing KY Steering Committee Chair as of September 1, and he will be replacing Marion Schmidt-Hurt of PNC Bank. And then also John Baines with Insight Partners will be coming on board to join that steering committee as well. So we're really excited to bring both of their knowledge and wisdom to the work. Just a few other quick updates outside of the work that I know Corey shared. One of the areas that I think would be of interest to this group would be our college and career readiness focus. So that is what we call Pillar 2. It is led by the Northern Kentucky Cooperative for Educational Services. So the co-op represents 19 school districts and is working with them to make sure that we are aligning and working with the students from those 19 school districts to connect them to opportunities and make sure they are college and career ready. One of the main pieces they've been working on over the last 2 years has been an increased focus on work-based learning for students. The definition of work-based learning in terms of how we're looking at it from a regional approach is very much connected to the KDE definition and the KDE work-based learning manual. So work-based learning can really kind of run across the spectrum of anything from job shadowing opportunities, career company tours, up to things like internships, co-ops, apprenticeships, and pre-apprenticeships. We have, I don't know if everyone's familiar, but we do have a Northern Kentucky College and Career Connection team that is working specifically on making sure that students across Northern Kentucky are connected to work-based learning. That College and Career Connection team is made up of Lorena Moore, who is employed by Navigo, and then Shelly Baker, who is our Northern Kentucky Youth Apprenticeship Coordinator, and she is employed by the Northern Kentucky Co-op. So the 2 of them work together They do weekly communication and outreach to all of those 19 school districts about all of the work-based learning opportunities that are happening across our region. If anyone would be interested in seeing that message that goes out from Lorraine, it is amazing of all the opportunities that are available. And she does include opportunities not only for just in-school youth, but she also puts opportunities in there like the Commonwealth Coders that Tara talked about for out-of-school youth and that 16 to 24 population as well. In the case that the school districts are able to, kind of navigate the students that have perhaps moved out of the school district, but are still looking to, kind of have a career plan following them leaving that district. One of the things that they have done recently is they did hold a college and career symposium for all of the high school, college, and career counselors across Northern Kentucky in July. They also had representatives from the identified employer collaboratives that we have decided we're really kind of working most closely with to connect to the 5 in-demand industry sectors. So those collaboratives are AMIP, Inter Alliance for IT, the Health Collaborative, Supply Chain OKI, and then also we work with Allied Construction Industries and Building Industry Association here in Northern Kentucky. So again, between Shelley and Lorraine, they are doing a fantastic job of, really kind of dividing and conquering the work when it comes to employer connections and then getting that information out to the schools. So if there is any information from employers that you would want to make sure are getting into our school districts, I would certainly, suggest and highly recommend that we go through that process because we've tried and worked really hard to make sure that we have a streamlined system there. One of our items that's come out of that is we do have a My Career E3 work-based learning platform. That platform was launched in the midst of COVID. Timing probably wasn't ideal. But despite that, we still, as of August 6th, have 152 student accounts. 23 school districts are within that system now. And there's currently, I think, 50 active work-based learning opportunities in the system. I will say outside of the My Career E3 system, there are an additional about 25 work-based learning opportunities. So a big piece of what that team's looking to do is as work-based learning experiences and opportunities are made available, and if your companies have those, we'd really love to have them in that centralized My Career E3 platform. So again, just another way to connect, and I can certainly help anyone here on this call make sure that you're connecting with our college and career connection team. And then finally, the one piece I know Lisa wanted me to share, we have, as I mentioned, those collaboratives. We worked with those employer collaboratives here recently and utilized some funding that Grow NKY received from One NKY Alliance and the Truist Foundation, specifically to look at how we could have regional student data that was compiled from the school districts that are utilizing the U-Science aptitude assessment. If you're not familiar with U-Science, it is an assessment that looks more at aptitude of students versus just strictly interest. And so by having that student data, we're able to see as a region where students' kind of natural aptitude towards those 5 in-demand industry sectors falls and when they take the test, and then help them kind of align those aptitudes to career pathways. So that data is being led by some staff members at Navigo, but those 5 employer collaboratives alongside that funding I mentioned from One NKY Alliance, we're able to get the student data that is going to be representing, I believe, about 15,000 Northern Kentucky high school students. So while it's not 100% regional, we have about 19,000 high school students. We are getting pretty close to having a true regional look at, what the students look like in terms of the pathways that they are best suited to kind of pursue as they're, going through high school and then beyond. So more information to come on that, but we are excited for the public sharing an announcement of that student data. And I think I probably did go over my time because it's a lot of information, but that might be, I think, all I have to share right now.
Good deal. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's a great update. It's a lot going on, it sounds like.
It's so much. I probably could have talked for like 20 more minutes, but I will stop.
All right.
Well, thank you, Amanda. Thanks for
Yes.
joining us today. Love to have you back every meeting if you're available. So.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for letting me jump in. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right, Tara.
Okay.
Back to you.
Yeah. Sorry about that, everybody. And just as a reminder, we thought it was really critical as we were in the GROW meetings and talking about the need for employer engagement. GROW continues to add employer involvement, but at the same time, we felt like it was a no-brainer to have the Grow folks provide updates and get feedback from this group, which is already all about business services. And so that's why we have the standing agenda item to have either Lisa or Amanda present on what they have going on. And then hopefully you guys will find value in that and be able to provide insights too. And then we can all be aligning all of our work in the right direction. Okay, so back really quickly to the OJT conversation. I would like to update our policies with a specific number that we, somewhat scientifically create. And so, Brent, it's kind of a feeling and it's going to be kind of, what we feel like is right. We don't want it too high. We don't want it too low. I don't know that I feel particularly ready to just like put that line in the sand today, but I would like the permission to come up with a number to be able to bring it forward to the full WIB next month.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you guys could maybe just have a motion to say, like, you'll be willing to, I don't know, like, hear that, like, to move it to the full, WIB in September. I don't know if we're going to have a sort of a meeting with our
A
work
discussion
ceremony.
or maybe a recommendation
I think a recommendation in September
of the amount. Okay.
I'm feeling like somewhere around 13. Because I
Okay.
don't know that we're quite ready to put the line in the sand for 15, even though I like that number. Just because keep in mind that we don't only serve Boone, Kent, and Campbell counties. We also serve some more rural counties that really, they don't have the cost of living that we do. And then we also don't have the pay level. And so we don't want to, leave them out because of, the amount being too high.
Okay.
So I'm inclined to go with either 12 in line with 10Co or maybe 13, keeping in mind that we are trying to be a little more aspirational.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel strongly about it, Tara, so you're not hurting my feelings at all. And I will make a motion to let staff make that determination. So if someone else on the committee wants to second that, we can, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to bring the recommendation to the full board in September with just a little bit more time to be able to investigate that.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
Second it.
Thanks. Thank
Wait,
you,
who's second? Not
Gina.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to get some more input from our more rural areas before we make a final call. So I
Okay.
know Lisa was on this and I think she may have had to step away, but
Do we need an all in favor
we
here?
do.
Yeah. All in favor of the motion presented by Brent? Anyone opposed?
Is Michelle able to vote?
Or Kara? Great.
We actually can't move forward unless we.
I agree.
I'm not opposed.
I will say,
Oh,
Tara,
okay.
since you're doing your research, I do think it's a really good point about the rural, counties and there is a different cost of living throughout the state right now. And it can be dramatic at times, depending on where you are, where your office is, how close the commute is, all of those factors come into play with these businesses making those determinations. So I think you're right to do it that way. And thanks for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll even investigate, we created an up to amount for youth because of that. I don't know if we have any ability to make a little bit more flexibility, or some kind of tiered situation. But I'll be able to provide a full report in September. So thank
Okay.
you guys for that. And then 639, I have one more update.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're good because we have,
Yeah, we already did partnership.
yeah, we're good.
Cool. So just one other thing, I know I've been talking a lot this meeting. There's just been a lot of kind of built up activity throughout the summer. So as Amanda mentioned and Corey kind of mentioned, we talked about with Grow, there is an effort to kind of look at the Grow statistics and the metrics about like what does success look like. And in the strategic plan for the WIB, we talked about being more data driven and the conversation about updating our key performance indicators document came up as a part of that. I've been kind of waiting to move too deeply into that because I really would like to align with what Grow does before we get, sort of too far off to sort of our own piece. But it looks like that conversation is going to be kind of continue ongoing for a little while. So what I'm thinking is that we had talked about having kind of a 2-page key performance indicator document for our programs. So the front would be truly a report on how we are doing. And then the back would be kind of those like environmental, workforce indicators that we don't control, right? So like we don't control the unemployment rate, like we don't control, average wages like overall. So I'd like to go ahead and get moving because several of you said that you were available and willing to participate on that, and I don't want to lose that momentum. So I think we'll go ahead and get moving with the front page of like what we do have the ability to control. And then once we feel like we're able to kind of take off where, Grow leads us, then we'll make the second page, maybe even it's just showing the Grow dashboard, or maybe it's kind of a hybrid or something, but kind of based on that. So I'm hoping then to send a doodle poll here in the next few days. I'll probably send it to everybody, and then if you want to participate, awesome. And then if you don't, then you can just let it go by you. Of anybody who wants to take a look at the KPI. I'm imagining somewhere around 2 or 3 meetings. I don't think it's going to take a super long time to just take a look at what we currently do, and then make any suggestions on how to make it just a little bit easier to understand. One of the key pieces is that in the past, we have compared to the previous year. And I think if anything, COVID taught us that we don't necessarily want to compare to last year. So I think it's important to set actual like goals. We have goals on the performance side for our WIOA direct services for job seekers. But we actually don't really have any goals set on the business services side. Like, how many is a good number in terms of employer services? How many is a good number in terms of outreach? What we've been doing is just comparing to last year, which in the past has been a completely reasonable thing to do. It's just that I don't know that we want to continue to compare to last year this year. So those are the kinds of things to look for. And I just mentioned that first, because now we're going to show you the KPI. And so that way you'll have those things in mind as you're looking at it. So David, if you want to share the screen. Okay, so just as a reminder, this is the July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021 key performance indicators, but it's not really the like official year end because we're waiting on some additional figures. And yes, I know that it's August now, but some of these are lagging indicators. So June advertised job postings. You can see they're still pretty high. They were actually a little bit higher even a couple of months ago, but still quite high in terms of the number of posted positions. And we tend to know that this is not a perfect, indicator, because someone might post one entry, but they actually try to fill like 50 positions or something. I mean, we just don't have that ability to know that. But it's the best that we have, and we think it's pretty reliable because we do it the same way every month. You can see that our labor force participation rate in Northern Kentucky still continues to outpace the Commonwealth and the nation, which is, why we were having that conversation earlier in the meeting about Grow, about, yes, our supply is pretty good compared to our peers. It's just that it's still really not sufficient to meet the workforce demand. I think the unemployment rate stuff kind of speaks for itself. So, and then you can see that we ended up serving over 1,000 unique employers over the course of the year. If you want to scroll just a little bit further, there we go. So just a reminder for our new board members, these circles are showing each one of the target industries, so advanced manufacturing, construction trades, and so forth. And then if the circle is complete, that means we met, or in many cases exceeded, the number of employer outreach programs and activities that had happened the year prior. And this is that conversation about comparing to the past year as opposed to comparing to like a benchmark that we were trying to meet. So, I mean, lots of employer outreach, you know, exceeded last year in 3 of the 5 sectors, a little lower in construction trades and a little lower in IT business finance. I will be honest, I don't necessarily think that these are necessarily related to quality though, because an outreach can have different levels. And so we could have like a really intensive interaction with a company, but it's just a number on here. So that's another thing that I'm hoping that the update will provide, is giving us a little bit more of a tiered ability to see, hey, did we post something for them? Did we host their own hiring event? Or like, what did we help them think through their job descriptions? You know, there's a whole range of services that these might be. But definitely a lot of interactions and a lot of services to our employer community, a lot of hiring events, a lot of participating employers in those hiring events. Certainly employers are very interested in participating right now because they're trying to find assistance. It's a good thing that the rapid response numbers are lower, because that means that we didn't have any major, you know, as many major layoffs, which is good. Basic career services. Okay, so this is an in the door number, and our doors were closed due to COVID from March to November of 2020. So that's how you get the 9,069 versus the 19,494. And David, I hope you're going to be able to in a little bit to pull up that other thing that you created.
Yes, and I have some July numbers for the July KPI. I just don't have this part for July yet.
We'll just stick with this for now, and then you can show them the Facebook thing. So the WIOA individualized career services is for adults and dislocated workers. And then below with the like multiple colors, that's for WIOA youth paid work experience. That's where we've been in conjunction with Brighton Center, we've been putting a lot of emphasis on trying to get that number up in terms of paid work experience, because we do have a certain amount of our WIOA dollars that have to be used every year for paid work experience. And I think you can just keep going.
And none of those are in construction. I've seen that. Sorry.
Correct.
Right.
I don't know why.
That's weird.
Yes, it is. So we can work on that. The numbers in the bar charts, so the upper bar, like vertical bars, those are figures that we get from Frankfurt about our activities in terms of our dislocated workers, our adults, and our youth. They set the goals and then we try to meet them. Third quarter was pretty tough on us. We just got the numbers, I think yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a chance to insert them into this number, but fourth quarter looks a lot better.
I have a chart if you want me to pull it up.
Yes, please pull that up.
Oh.
Okay.
So this is fourth quarter.
So as you can see on the adult side, we exceeded each one of the goals. On the dislocated worker, it was tight, but we exceeded all the goals. And then on the youth side, I cannot see because the credential, I'm pretty sure we met 2 of the 3 goals.
Yeah, and Tony explained this entered employment really well to me earlier today, that if they're employed when they enter services, then they don't count towards entering employment in the second quarter because they were already working when they became eligible.
Which is unfortunate because we have so many people working right now. So, okay. So we will find out from the state here in the next month or 2 if they feel like the average of each of the individual quarters rolls up into us successfully meeting performance. I definitely anticipate that we should be meeting the state performance goals for the year as a whole for adult and dislocated worker. And we'll just remain to be seen on the youth side. So do you want to go back? Yeah. And then interviews, job placements, we talked about extensively last month, that it's extremely hard to get the employer to let us know who they actually placed in the job. So we feel like, I mean, even though it was outpacing last year, we feel like it's higher than 901. but it's just hard to get that data. And the job seeker and employer customer satisfaction rates. I mean, obviously, we're always trying to go for 100%, but those mid-90s are not bad. Does anybody have any questions about anything on this document? Cool. Okay. David did create something because we talked about that in the door number, and there were a lot of virtual programs over the last year. We're not going to read them all to you, but we did just want to let you know, in case you were interested, that, you know, there were 36,546 total views from all of the various programs that they had online via Facebook Live during, you know, July 2020 forward. And, you know, 250 watched them, you know, all the way through. So it's like a much smaller number, obviously. But some of these programs are an hour long.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard to judge, like, okay, did they watch it for 30 minutes? Like, did they, you know, if it's a 3-minute video and you only have like 2 views, then it's like, okay, that's bad. But if you have an hour-long video and somebody watched, you know, 45 minutes, like, okay, well, that's pretty good. So it's a little tricky, but we did just want to let you know at least that we were tracking that. We have heard from Brighton Center that they intend to change up the mechanism that they're using for Facebook and virtual events moving forward, not discontinuing them completely, but focusing more on, you know, maybe not having them quite as regularly, just to keep with making sure that the ROI is really there. So.
That's great.
Cool. Thanks, David.
You're welcome.
Good deal.
All right, Tara.
I'm done.
Is that you? Okay.
It's all you for me.
All right. We are at 3:22. Does anybody have any new business that needs to be discussed for the next 8 minutes till we wrap up? No new topics? You guys want to end 8 minutes early? Is that good? Is that like good for the chair to end 8 minutes
Really
early?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. You guys can keep me on. That's great. All right. Well, hearing no new business, we will adjourn. Thanks all for joining. We'll see you in a couple months.
Thank you.
Thanks.